Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah and on my channel I post a ton of anti-MLM content. I love doing deep dives into different MLM companies. I have MLM top fails videos on my channel where we look at a whole bunch of reels and photos and videos of people in MLMs and we debunk the misinformation that they are saying. And then there's videos like this one, MLM horror stories. These are your own personal experiences that you have taken the time to write out and send to me and that you have given me permission to share in a video. If at any time you'd like to send me your story, the instructions for how to do that are in the description box of all of my videos. It's super easy. You just send me an email. And as always, I have not pre-read any of these, so you and I are going to be reacting to them together. Let's get going right now. This story says, "Hey Hannah, I first just wanted to say how much I like watching your videos. You're so sweet and I really appreciate the way that you approach anti-MLM. You've quickly become my favorite anti-MLM channel I've watched. Thank you so much. You're too sweet. You guys are too nice at the beginning of your emails. I wouldn't call this a horror story, but the longer I've been watching your videos, the more I wanted to reach out and share my experiences. I'm going to list them out in bullet points if that's okay. It just makes more sense in my brain. I have quite a few thoughts, so buckle up." I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some people refer to us as Mormons, and I live in Utah. If you didn't know, this state was founded by people of this faith, so to this day, a lot of the state is made up of this religion. I did know that. I have a lot of LDS friends, a lot of LDS family, and a lot of them do live in Utah. For some reason, there are so many MLMs in Utah. Just off the top of my head, I can think of 5 major MLM headquarters in Utah: doTERRA, Young Living, Unique, Stampin' Up, and Paparazzi. The reason that I believe this is because in Utah, and pretty commonly in this religion, there are a lot of stay-at-home moms. As you know, there's a huge problem with Huns targeting stay-at-home moms. I just wanted to clear this up because I feel like Mormons get a bad rap for being in a lot of MLMs, and I think that the biggest problem is lack of information on the harmfulness of MLMs. I could not agree more with that. This came up in another horror story that somebody sent in, so I already mentioned it in another video, but I'd be happy to say it again here, is that the relationship between the LDS community and MLMs is uncanny. I always knew that there was some kind of connection, but I didn't recognize how many connections. There's 2 podcast episodes by Roberta Blevin's podcast. It's called Life After MLM. I'll link the episodes down below for you, but she interviews somebody. His name is Ryan McKnight, and he was a former LDS member, and he very respectfully and very matter-of-factly just lays out all of the connections. And he's very good about not making any judgments towards either community, but I think that if you're interested in learning more about why exactly these 2 things are so related, those podcast episodes, in my opinion, were very well done. I learned a lot. My husband was raised LDS. He and I listened to the podcast episodes together, and both of us agreed, like, wow, there are so many connections. So if you're interested in more information on that, those 2 episodes are a very great resource. Since I've lived in Utah my entire life, I've had so many run-ins with MLM companies. I just wanted to list the ones that I've personally known someone involved in: Mon8, Amway, doTERRA, Young Living, Paparazzi, Unique, Herbalife, It Works, Avon, Mary Kay, Beachbody, Cutco, Pure Romance, Roden & Field, Scentsy, Unicity, and Stampin' Up. That is a lot of MLMs. I thought I knew a lot of people in MLMs, but sister, you got me beat. My first real experience with an MLM as an adult was with doTERRA. I had a friend that sold it and was really into it. I texted her for some information and she sent me some samples. I ended up buying a starter pack, and with the starter pack, I was able to become a rep. I started looking into doing it, but their training and back office was so confusing. Not to mention trying to understand PV. It made me feel like I was too stupid to understand it. I could not grip the concept of PV when I first started looking into MLMs. It's so confusing. Why is it necessary? I know why it's necessary. It's because they're trying to masquerade how much money you're really spending. So for example, they could say, oh, you have a 100 PV requirement, but most of the time it's always more than $100. It's always more than like a 1-to-1 ratio. Thankfully, I never really sold it, but I'm embarrassed when I think about the people I did offer it to in the very beginning and how much money I spent buying oils. After finding the anti-MLM community, I stopped buying those oils and deactivated my account. Good for you. We love to hear it. I just wanted to briefly mention a weird experience I had with doTERRA. There was a lady that my mom was friends with when I was in high school that sold doTERRA. She was way too into it, and I remember that she would go to conferences and trainings all the time. Well, one time after she came back from this big and really expensive training, she offered to practice what she had learned with my mom and I. So I went to this lady's house and she ended up doing a super weird doTERRA oil massage on me. Okay. She had a massage table and everything. I remember it being so weird, and now as I think back, I do not think that she was qualified to be doing massage therapy since she was not licensed. Side note, I smelled so bad after the massage. Was she using straight essential oils for that? I mean, what do I know? But I'm pretty sure like massage oil it's not essential oil. It's like a very like neutral oil. Was she using essential oils? I have to know. And now for the most embarrassing story. I have a Labrador Retriever and she sheds a lot. I've been on the hunt for the best vacuum for years to help manage her shedding. One night when I got home from dinner with friends, my husband informed me that there would be a guy coming by to do a Kirby vacuum demonstration. I rolled my eyes and thought, well, at least we'll get our carpet cleaned. He came and did the demonstration, and I was so convinced that this was the best vacuum I had ever seen. Side note, I was well into the MLM community at this point, and I remember thinking that Kirby wasn't an MLM because I had never heard it mentioned in the tons of anti-MLM videos I've seen. Long story short, I bought the Kirby vacuum. No! I didn't even think anything of it until I watched one of your MLM horror story videos where someone mentioned Kirby. I'm so embarrassed that I spent so much money in support of an MLM. It really is a great vacuum, but I don't like that I supported that business model. I bring this up because I believe that the more MLM companies that we can inform people about, the better. If I would have known, I would have not made that purchase. With that being said, thank you so much for using your platform to help educate people on these companies. Sorry that was a lot. Thanks again for all you do. Dang it, the Kirby vacuum guy gotcha. That's the thing, is there's so many MLMs out there. It's hard to keep track of them all. It's hard to keep them all straight. And I completely agree. Like, we need to keep talking about it. We need to keep putting all of these names out there because the more people that know about it, the better. And aren't those vacuums like so expensive too? I mean, hey, if it works great for you and your dog, sounds good to me. That must have just felt like a punch in the gut, right? When you realize after the fact that it was an MLM. Ugh. I think about that a lot, like what I have purchased or what I've bought into in the past that was an MLM. There's one experience in particular that I remember. I was at some kind of like craft fair or women's show or something like that, and there were booths all over the place, and there was one that had these supplements. They were like B vitamin supplements, and they were giving them out just like one pill at a time, but they were like, take this and, see how you feel in an hour, come back and see if you want to buy some. And I was like, wow, this is giving me so much energy. I love it. And I went back and I bought a bottle. I'm almost 100% positive it was an MLM, but to this day, I can't find the brand name. I can't confirm that, but it happens to the best of us, okay? They're so sneaky. There's so many MLMs. There's so many ways of pitching the MLMs, so don't feel bad about it. It's okay. Thank you for sending this in. I like the bullet points. I think that was good. It's a nice summary of all those little experiences. And you sent like a little follow-up email where it just says that I sent you my MLM horror story and I wanted to give you more correct information. I mentioned that I could think of 5 MLM companies based in Utah. After a quick Google search, I found an article that listed 50. Let me repeat that. 50 MLM companies based in Utah. I will link that article for you in case you're interested. Such a bummer that it has taken the state by storm. I really think that the best way to beat them is to educate others on how harmful they are. I could not agree more. I'm going to take this link and I'm going to put it in the description box if anyone else is interested. And the next story says, hi Hannah, I'm pretty new to anti-MLM content and I have particularly enjoyed your channel because I feel you respect individuals while pulling no punches with the MLM industry itself. I appreciate that because I have some people I love who've been sucked into this stuff despite themselves. In that vein, any names in this email have been changed. Thank you for saying that. That is a big goal of mine. I also have loved ones in MLMs, and for that reason, it's really important to me to have like a compassion and education-based approach. So thank you for saying that. My first experiences with MLMs were through the moms of some of my friends. One sold Avon, the other Mary Kay. When we were kids, one girl's birthday party always involved a makeover session before cake was served, and we'd be sent home with a catalog of products. The other friend had a fairly normal birthday party, though there was always a little display of kid-friendly Avon lotions and chapsticks with price tags. This does say chopsticks. I don't know if you mean Avon chopsticks. I don't think so. I think you mean chapsticks. And a small goodie bag of sample-sized products with a brochure to order full size. But she also held a Christmas party that was just a straight-up Avon party. Honestly, Avon Mom wasn't too bad. Over the years, fewer and fewer people attended the parties. Avon Mom, I love that you're calling them like Avon mom. That's so funny. Avon mom responded by cutting way back on the brochures and stuff, changing the Christmas party to a cookie party, and letting people know they could stay after for a makeover if they wanted. Mary Kay mom, on the other hand, she called the parents of every girl in class and claimed we were bullying her child. Stacy by skipping her birthday parties. Kids were forced by their parents to go to these parties, and it wasn't pretty. My parents told me I could choose, but I kept going because I was genuinely friends with Stacy. Then in high school, several of us told her we would have to miss it that year. Next thing I know, her mom is on the phone with my mom, then asks to talk to me. How dare you skip Stacy's party? You were invited and you are expected to be there, you little brat. Oh, no. No. Hate to break it to you, Mary Kay mom, but maybe people would want to go to Stacy's parties if you didn't hijack them and turn them into a Mary Kay pitch. I responded, didn't Stacy tell you that Brock's viewing is that night? She said the viewing is from 5 to 7 p.m., the party is at 7:30. I have not set foot in Stacy's home since. I don't know who Brock is, but from the phrasing of this sentence, did somebody pass away and they had like a funeral viewing? Watch me get that completely wrong. I'm making a whole bunch of assumptions. But if that is this situation, that is terrible. MLM reps have flitted in and out of my life since then, but for the most part, it wasn't so bad until I was about 25. I just started a new job in a new, very sketchy area. I have a disability that makes me unable to drive. That meant I needed an apartment close enough to the workplace that I could walk to work every day. I found one that I could just barely afford on my salary as a full-time special education aide. Unfortunately, as I said, this wasn't a very safe or desirable area, and I was spending a lot of time out on foot. At one point, I had 2 stalkers. I was spending all of my free time watching a neighbor's kids so the neighbor could press charges against our other neighbor. Basically, I was very, very stressed. When a coworker asked me out to lunch, I almost cried for joy. I just wanted to spend some time with someone who cared. Oh no, I can see it coming. Lunch seemed normal enough. She noticed I wasn't eating much and asked if money was tight. When I said it was, she told me she and her husband had recently started interviewing for new high-paying jobs and asked if I'd like to come to a dinner event the company was holding to see if I could get an interview too. I agreed. Honestly, it was partly just to have a chance to get out of my apartment. A few days later, when we got done with work, I got in the car with my coworker and her husband, and they drove me to an unmarked office building in the middle of nowhere. Inside this poorly lit building, we watched an hour-long slideshow about Primerica. There was no food, but there were free drinks. I know it sounds whiny to complain about not being fed, but I can't help but wonder if the combination of promising food and not providing food, but providing alcohol, was intentional. Luckily for me, I don't drink. At this point, I hadn't eaten all day and I was tired and hungry, so naturally I was pulled aside by some guy who said he was my friend's boss. I have blood sugar issues. I honestly can't remember what he said because I was so shaky. He gave me a paper to write down the names of other people who would be interested in signing up. I looked at my coworker and said that I'd really like to go home. She nodded and said, "Of course, we'll leave as soon as you're done," and then she pushed the paper toward me. I hate that situation. That would make me so uncomfortable to be cornered and somewhat trapped there and like, you have to do this and then we can go. Absolutely not. I would not be okay with that. I ended up writing down my cousin's info, but I used his middle name instead of his first name. When they finally took me home, I sent him a text telling him what had happened and what I'd done, and told him that anyone who contacted him looking for Cameron instead of John was probably scammy. What a good idea. That is thinking on your feet right there. I love that idea. He sent me several devil emojis and a "thanks cuz, this will be fun." He's a champion level troll. At least I got my revenge. I'm sorry, I know this is so long. I just wanted to tell my story. If you read the whole thing, I appreciate it. If I was in that situation, I probably would have just made up somebody's name, made up somebody's phone number, but I love this for you. That you were like, my cousin John, he could have some fun with these sketchy Primerica people. I'm gonna do this. I love it. I need to know what happened with you and your coworker after this point. Because from the sounds of it, like they already had their foot in the door with Primerica and they were recruiting you into it. Did you ever like talk to them again, hang out with them again? again. I feel like that would make for a very uncomfortable workplace. If you had that experience together outside of work, let me know. This next story says, hello lovely people, trigger warning, SA, and religious trauma are mentioned. I just found you. I've sent this to other YouTubers, but I want as many people to hear it as possible. You're the only person that gets screenshots and a more detailed, updated story. Oh, thank you. I feel so special. A few years ago, I was working for my college. I got really close to my supervisor at the time. I even confided in her about my child abuse, my human trafficking experience, and how I was homeless when I ran away from my traffickers. Oh my gosh. That's how close we were. She was like a mom to me. I looked up to her. She told me how she makes so much money from this business and that she genuinely wanted to help me. She told me that she knew my work ethic and that I was the rock star she was looking for. She even paid for my paparazzi starter kit. I think she genuinely was trying to help me. I went along with it because I trusted this woman with my life. She had a master's degree and I knew she wouldn't steer me wrong. I wanted to be just like her. I drank the Kool-Aid for about a month but quickly began asking questions. I didn't understand how, if I was a small business, why small business Facebook groups kept kicking me out. I didn't understand why none of my sorority sisters would buy from me when I've had conversations with them about how we should support small businesses as much as we can previously. I felt so bad because this person was nice enough to help me and spend $100 on a starter kit for me. I couldn't even pay her back. I felt awful. I asked her about it and she told me that I was a 1099 contractor. Alarm bells began ringing. This is when I began getting disillusioned with the business. Yeah, so good point. You are not an employee. You are not technically like a salesperson. As you said, for tax purposes, you're a 1099 contractor, which means that you're essentially self-employed, but you're doing work for or providing services for another company, in this case, paparazzi. But you're not their employee. They don't owe you anything for that because you're self-employed. And that's how people get away with working endless amounts of hours to try and sell MLM products and recruit other people, and they might not be compensated for it. And that's completely legal because you are a 1099 contractor. She kept pressuring me to go to the Empower Me Pink conference, so I did. She told me that I really needed to go. Was that because she knew that it would like rope you in a little bit longer, brainwash you a little bit, keep you in? A third of the conference was dedicated to giving out awards. I think my upline recognized that I was disillusioned because I would question some of the cheesy motivational phrases and how they would tell us to let go of anyone that doesn't support the business. It didn't matter who they were. I looked around me at the thousands of other people in the room. They were all cheering at every little thing the founder said, regardless of whether it was true or not. I thought to myself, am I the only one here that is thinking for themselves? Shivers went up my spine. That's when I knew this was a cult. Wow. Beautifully written. The second third of the conference was dedicated to showing off the new jewelry. Fashion is subjective, so I'm not going to bash it. But what I will say is that the new pieces haven't been my style since middle school. The third part of the conference was dedicated to one of the founders preaching. I'm pagan and grew up in a religious cult. My upline knew this. I'm completely fine with people sharing how much they love God and how God has done so much for them, but I'm not okay with the preaching and telling me what to believe. I was told at 6 years old that I was going to hell because I couldn't speak in tongues. All they would preach about was hell. My 4-year-old sister would wake up in the middle of the night with night terrors about hell. The pastor felt the authority to damn people to hell when they walked out of his church. I say all of this because mentally it brought me back to being that scared, helpless child, terrified that if I wore pants or a skirt above my ankles, that I would be sent to hell. My upline saw how frazzled and upset I was getting. She started out sympathetic and told me how she wishes it wasn't so religious as well. She later looked frustrated with me and told me to take a walk. After the conference, my upline had an after party at a bar with food and snacks. I will say that everyone there was kind to me. That part was actually fun, but it was as if they didn't even want to acknowledge what just happened. My upline kept asking me, so what did you think of that conference? I was expected to smile and say that it was great. It was almost as if they were trying to program my mind to forget the trauma and just move on as if everything was great. The toxic positivity was intense. And that's what I'm saying. These conferences, their sole purpose is to brainwash you, is to flood you with toxic positivity, and is to convince you to stay with the company against your better judgment. And how crazy is that you're even questioning it, you're doubting it, they're recognizing you doubting it, and they're still trying to push it on you. A few months later, the pandemic began. I was able to use that as my way of escaping. I know that we technically don't have to tell our upline that we're quitting, but we had weekly one-on-one calls. I was practically forced to tell her. I said that everyone is is losing their jobs and my customer base consists of college students and people with mental and emotional disabilities, I'm not going to exploit them. $5 is a meal to them. And $5 is important because paparazzi jewelry costs $5. My upline told me that there's nothing wrong with working my business and that every other company is doing it. I told her that I felt icky and that my morals won't let me. After some back and forth, she finally sighed and told me how I was a good person and that there are no hard feelings. I donated my inventory to a safe house for trafficking victims that helped me when I first escaped and joined a Facebook support group for ex-paparazzi consultants. That's amazing. Good for you. I'm really happy that that's kind of how it ended. She ended up quitting her job as my supervisor to work her paparazzi business full time. I had many friends ask me who she was because she was sending friend requests to my Facebook friends without even knowing them. I was the only mutual friend. The screenshots are below and she unfriended me. I want to stress that I genuinely think this person is good at heart. She just has a lot of cognitive dissonance. She doesn't realize what she's doing is bad or the damage MLMs can cause. Thank you so much for listening. I know my story is heavy. It is always so terrifying when somebody quits their full-time job to do their MLM full-time, because that's just one more line in the sand that they're drawing. It's one more disconnection from the outside world that they're making, and they're putting all their eggs into this one basket. So you sent some screenshots. This one looks like maybe one of your friends was like, hey, who is this person that's trying to be my friend on Facebook? And you said, my former supervisor, she's trying to suck you into her paparazzi MLM. And then this looks like you messaged your ex-supervisor, current paparazzi consultant, and you said, a few people have asked me who you were after you sent them a friend request and I was the only mutual friend. Can you please not send my friend requests unless you actually know them? Your MLM is making you do creepy things. I love you, not your MLM. And then she replied, hi, I hope you are doing well. That was a little offensive to say I'm doing creepy things. To my knowledge, I did not add people you were friends with. If they happened to be friends with you, it had to be an old request. I've stayed far away from your page, your timeline, and your friends. There might be a different connection, but I will be sure to go through and review. Please let them know that they can decline and politely decline any request that came from me. You really should work on your approach with people. Have a great day. Ooh, yikes. That's kind of nasty. And let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that she really didn't know that you were the only mutual friend in that situation. That just means that she's going out there friend requesting anybody and everybody, which they are encouraged to do, right? The more people, the better. So it could technically maybe be true that she didn't know that you guys were mutual friends because she wasn't looking. She didn't care. She was just click, 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 click down the list of people. Who knows, of course, but that is a possibility. And then you said back to her, I'm sorry you were offended, but in my opinion, sending a friend request to someone you don't know is creepy. I agree. Remember, these people came to me asking who you were, all of which have been in the past month. Perhaps inappropriate is a better word. Your MLM is your motivation. You're right. The way I approach things is not always the best. But along with all of your self-development stuff, you might want to add some self-reflection, especially on the subject of cognitive dissonance. I really do care about you as a person. And at least from this screenshot, it looks like she has not read that message. Maybe she has since then, but this is just a perfect example again of how MLMs can come in between relationships and friendships. And it seems like if it wasn't for paparazzi, you two might still be friends today. As you said, you used to be really close, you really looked up to her, and it's very unfortunate that this happens so frequently that when people join an MLM, all of their focus, all of their attention, all of their money, all of their time, all of their relationships go towards that one thing. And everything outside of that one thing is irrelevant and it's cut off and it's not paid attention to. But I think that your story and your experience is very important in the sense that you knew that it wasn't right for you. You knew something was off. It felt like a cult. It brought back really traumatic memories. And I'm happy for you that you recognized those cues and that you were able to leave. And I'm also sorry that that cost you a friendship. All right, on to the next. This one says, hey Hannah, I love your channel. Love you. Love your cats. I love my cats too. You have the best, most engaging way of reading and reacting to your stories. I have too many experiences with MLMs. I could email you 100 times over. Please do. I would love that. But today I wanted to talk about one I don't see much on horror stories, and that's good old pure romance. And also one I almost got duped into that failed before it ever took off. Ignite. About 4 years ago, right before I met my husband, my best friend invited me to a pure romance party. Back then, the anti-MLM movement wasn't what it is today, but I was still against them. I always knew they were shady and had some family experiences to back my suspicions up. My best friend, let's call her Susie, knew this about me and asked me not to make fun of her for co-hosting this party and asked if I would come to support her. Of course I said said yes. Susie was in a sorority in our college where 90% of the girls didn't like me too much, and a good half of the reason I agreed to this party was to see who came and who might become a sex toy hunbot after the pitch. Much to Susie's chagrin, the only attendees were the pure romance rep, myself, and her big and little from her sorority, and her mom. Oh God. Susie had been my best friend since we were 12. Her mom was like a second mom to me, so knowing the sex toys were about to come out had me cringing from the depths of my soul. I'm no prude by any means, but Susie and I grew up very religious. We even met at church camp. Our parents treated sexual activity like it was COVID, and we must stay 6 feet away from it at all times. So when the rep started her pitch holding the biggest dildo I've ever seen, and Susie's mom was just smiling and nodding along with her, I turned about as red as I possibly could. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting secondhand embarrassment right now. I also don't feel like I'm a prude, but I also have my boundaries. Even just reading this, I'm like, whoo! The rep had the most outlandish income claims, all while being crass about her job description. It was truly a thing to behold. She said to us all, my daddy was so disappointed when he found out I quit my job in finance, making $75,000 a year. Oh God, I'm like reading ahead. Okay, I'm getting embarrassed. But now I make more than that, slinging some and he couldn't be more proud. Oh God. She launches into all the different products they carry, does a weird dance and a strap-on. She goes into detail about lube, talks about each toy and references 50 Shades of Grey a lot. Susie talks about different toys she likes, and so does her mom. I think the other two girls chimed in a little bit, but I stayed dead silent. Can you tell that I'm like real uncomfy right now? I was mainly just watching the show and thinking to myself, what the hell is happening? Well, our rep took this as a challenge, I suppose, and wanted to get me talking. She asked if there was a special man in my life, and Susie butts in and said, yeah, she's been talking to Joe, a boy from college that had been out of town. And the rep asks if I'm gonna see him later. I tell her no, but that he'll be back that weekend. She starts trying to sell me some his and hers lube and telling me how much it would improve my sex life. As if she knows what my sex life needs to begin with. Little did she know I had surgery for endometriosis that summer, so I was being super gentle with my lady bits and definitely not putting anything on, in, or near them that this crazy lady was selling me. I wasn't alone on not being enamored with her pitch though, because no one bought anything at the end of the party. Susie was almost in tears because she thought she failed at this party. So I caved in and bought a body oil, but it low-key sucked. Susie didn't fail at that party, the rep did 1000%. Side note, have you seen the Pure Romance Huns using OnlyFans to sell their products now? I was added to a Facebook group by a rep before I left. I saw that they were offering discounts on toys to girls with OnlyFans and asking them to advertise the toys to their following. Interesting marketing tactic, gals. I have not seen that, no. But honestly, not surprised. Story number 2, Ignite. So this one's going to be really short. I do some modeling and photography as a gig on the side. One brand a lot of models I know used to drool over getting a chance to shoot for or be featured on their page was Dan Blazarian's Ignite. At the very beginning of the pandemic, I got a DM from a well-known model in my area saying she got a job with Ignite and thought I would be a great fit. Instantly, I was like, yeah, sign me up. Dan is a douche, but that sounds like an awesome opportunity nonetheless. She sent me a link to sign up, and it wasn't quite what I expected. It was a landing page for some CBD products and an application. I thought, okay, maybe they're looking for some models to advertise the products. So I filled out the application and got an email with a Zoom link. I was so nervous because, again, I thought this was a modeling gig and the typical Ignite model is way hotter than I am. I did my hair and makeup before this Zoom and was expecting to see the girl who DM'd me and some other models on this call. Nope, just a bunch of random people and a middle-aged dude going on for 40 minutes about all the stuff we have to do to earn money and sell this CBD. He really laid it on thick, said so many top-level influencers and celebrities were wanting to get out of their contracts because their compensation plan was so good. They could make more money doing this dumbass CBD selling thing. Yikes. Just goes to show that you always have to be on guard because literally anything can turn into an MLM these days. Yeah, you got that right. You always have to be on guard. You never know what's an MLM, what could turn into an MLM. You might think that you're getting involved with one thing and it turns out to be something totally different. But thank you for sending this story. Yeah, I really haven't talked a whole lot about pure romance. I might be censoring some things because I like to keep my videos a little PG, but you got me out of my comfort zone for the day, so thank you for that. And it is my hope for you that you never have to be caught in that kind of situation ever again. Okay, and this story says, "Hi Hannah, I've been binging your content after your videos were suggested to me on a Jessica Hickson video." Jessica keeps popping up all over the place. Again, love her videos. Go check her out. "I've been thinking about sharing my story for a while, so here it goes. It is a long one, but no apologies per your request." Thank you. Never apologize for a long story, okay? "Thankfully, I've never been directly involved in selling for an MLM, but like many others, they have filled my childhood and adult life. I grew up in a large family. My mom has 7 brothers and sisters, and I have many cousins. I say this because you see how large of a warm market we have. I'm sure many MLM huns thought we were a gold mine. Growing up, I never realized what my mom and aunts were getting involved in, but now I have flashbacks while binging MLM content of all the parties I went to. This was back in the day where we got all dressed up, went to an aunt's house, listened to the sales pitch of whatever the party was, shopped, ate appetizers, and it was a party. I genuinely had a lot of fun. I remember Pampered Chef, Tupperware, PartyLite, Princess House, Mary Kay, Avon 31, Cabby. Cabby? Is Cabby an MLM? No way! No, I did not know that. And I only know about this brand. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I never know. Cabby, Cobby, whatever. I only know about this brand because I was really big into reselling. And I would watch a ton of reselling videos and like thrift hauls, and people would always talk about, "Oh my gosh, I got this Cabby sweater, Cabby pants." Like, I always thought it was like a really desirable brand that I should be on the lookout for. Did not know that it was an MLM. Learn new stuff every day. Love it. Moving on. Cabby, Kirby, Leah Sophia, Norwex, and some sort of pearl jewelry one. Feel free to use this list for more deep dives. I will. I have a huge list going. My aunts and mom were definitely the target group of stay-at-home moms wanting an extra income. I think the only reason my mom didn't become part of someone's downline was because she had 7 daughters and didn't have the time. Bless her heart, because we didn't have the extra income to spare. As I got older, aka started having my own income, there was more of a pressure for me to buy things for whoever was hosting, so they could get their free hostess gifts. It often was the case that there was a certain sales goal for the attendees to reach in order for the host to get a free gift, or money off of her own order, whatever it was. The pyramid really starts at the bottom, I swear. I was only in high school, but I still felt pressured to spend the little money I had to help my family. Major regrets. Once I hit middle school, my friends started hosting with their moms. I had no second guesses because I was already conditioned that this was a normal thing, so it would be adults and middle school girls hanging out. After watching one of your videos, a deep, dark memory surfaced about being at a PartyLite party with one of my middle school friends and her mom. We played some sort of bingo thing, and one of the girls won host a party. I filmed a lot of horror story videos this week, and this has come up more than once. You're playing a game and you win the host a party prize. It's insane. That's not a prize. Nobody wants that. Mind you, we are all in middle school, literally 11 years old. This MLM hun would not let my friend, a middle school girl, leave this party until she had picked a date on the calendar to host a party, and she had to sign a form that if she didn't host a party, the original host of the party would not get her special discount and gift. That seemed just as confusing as the compensation plan, right? The thing is, we are actually children, and hosting a physical party in your home is expensive. I remember my sister spent $200 on food and drinks for her party once. I just remember how uncomfortable I was because the MLM hun was so pushy, and we were all awkward middle school girls who didn't know how to say no. Thankfully, one of the other moms caught onto the vibe and offered to host a party the next month instead. I was not in attendance. Yeah, I really hate that. That's really, really terrible. What does she freaking expect, okay? A middle schooler to like put together an entire MLM party and like host it and sell things? That is 100% unreasonable. And for her to even expect, for her to even think that that's okay, that that is an option for her, to have this child host a party for her, is absolutely appalling to me. I became pretty antisocial in high school, but I know that my aunts kept hosting parties and my sister became a consultant for cabbie, and she still is for almost 10 years, I think. I can share more stories on that too. I'd love for a deep dive on it because I haven't done much digging on my own. She also was a vulnerable stay-at-home mom when she was recruited. Sorry for the quick side tangent. Anyways, I remember the exact moment I realized what an MLM was, and I became strong anti-MLM. I was at a doTERRA party a coworker at the time was hosting. I graduated with my bachelor's in history and education. It is relevant, I swear. And at the party, the MLM hun was talking about how amazing doTERRA is for women and that they have fair labor and wages. And they are helping all these women in other countries have a purpose. That sounds not right to me. The whole speech had a condescending tone to it. The thing that got me was they were talking about the women in this country that had no independence, they were uneducated, and the company was doing so much to advance. Oh my goodness, you were so loud. Yeah, I'm just so distracted. He's like non-stop meowing in the background. Are you serious right now? You just need love and attention? He wants in, then he wants out, then he wants in, then he wants out. You're being crazy. Okay, I need to like repeat that part, sorry. The thing that got me was they were talking about the women in this country that had no independence, they were uneducated, and the company was doing so much to advance the feminism in this country, being that they were giving them jobs to extract the oil or something along those lines. The sticking point was when they talked about the menstruation huts, where these women go when they are on their periods. The doTERRA consultant talked about how disgraceful that is, and it's such a backwards concept. This is where the history part comes in. I had just written a paper on this exact topic. We had done a deep discussion and research in my course on the religious reasons that women did it in these countries, and they actually were able to spend time with the older women, and they cared for them in these menstruation huts. It was actually a deeply religious experience. I just was shocked by what this girl was saying with no research actually done. Obviously, if I had known what I know now, I would not have been so shocked because MLM huns don't even know all the info on their own company. Thankfully, the girl I had gone to the party with was already anti-MLM, so after the sales pitch, we bounced. After that, being the research nerd that I was, I did some digging and I have been anti-MLM since. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole story, but it felt good to share. Your videos are fantastic. Thank you for all the work you do. And thank you for sending me this story. I love that like subtle shade at the end. Like, I'm not surprised they're not well researched. And it brings up kind of an interesting point that people who are in MLMs tend to, I guess, believe without seeing, right? They tend to believe whatever it is that the person in power is telling them. They tend to believe that good things will come to them if they just have the right mindset, things like that. And I love that that was your turning point. You were like, actually, I'm well educated on this subject. I just researched it and everything you're saying is total BS. But I think the part that takes the cake for me is the 11-year-old being expected to host a PartyLite party. Insanity. And with that, that's all of the stories that I have for you for this video. Shut up. It's a big goal of mine moving forward to have longer videos in general, so please keep sending me your stories. I can never have too many. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next one real soon.